So food, a special meal that someone made for you.
Okay, so the meal comes into my mind is when I was in Berlin. My Korean roommate cooked an authentic Korean cuisine, bibimbap for me. And why it is so unforgettable for me is because it was my first time to taste to taste food cooked by uh, uh, cooked by people from Korean from outside China, uh, and um, the and I think she's really good at cooking, and she prepared quite well for this meal. I've um, when the bibimbap bowl was served on the table, it was quite colorful, and it was a bowl. It was the rice topped with some seasoned, uh, sauteed vegetables and beef, and in the middle there was a an um, fried sided up egg, and yes the and before we eat it, we need to stir the whole bowl and mixed all the vegetables, beef, the egg yolk together with the rice. It was very very delicious, I would say, and I really enjoyed that meal. And we me my Korean roommate and I really enjoy
Thank you.
spend the time together. We really enjoyed that time.
Okay. Thank you very much. Well done. You spoke for 2 minutes. Okay, good work. Let's look over your story first. So the meal that comes into mind is when I was in Berlin with a Korean flatmate. We had Korean cuisine, beef. What was it? Beef in bap.
Bibimbap is like
Bibimbap.
the Korean uh, stirred rice. I don't know. It
Like
was the
like a
rice.
stir fry. Yeah, you could say.
Yes, yeah, stir fry, yeah, like
Okay.
that, but not stir fried in the pan, but we put different things on the rice, and before we eat it, we need to stir it to mix all the ingredients together with the rice.
Great. Okay. Let's have a look. So why it's so unforgettable? Because now in part two, try not to ask yourself a question and
Okay.
answer it. So instead of that, it was unforgettable because it's my first time. So it was my first time to eat food from Korea, not Korean. Korean is the description, a Korean
Yeah.
person. Okay, so from Korea, outside China. She's really good at cooking. So she was, she was back then.
She is, because now I think she's still good at cooking.
Okay, we'll come to that point in a second. Okay,
All right.
right. And she prepared quite well. She served it on the table, and beef, a fried sided of egg. So a fried egg on the side, or a side dish of fried egg.
Uh, Neither, but it was fried egg, but only fried the bottom side of it.
Ah, okay, yeah,
So
okay,
the yolk is still flowing in the
yeah,
middle.
okay. You could just say a fried egg
All right.
if you
Okay.
want. Okay, so a fried egg, and before we eated it, so before we ate in the past,
Sure.
that's okay. And I had to stir and mixed. So we had to stir and mix. We're saying mix because you've already said had earlier in the sentence. Okay, so we had to stir and mix, and it was very delicious. Okay, not too many mistakes. Good. Now, she is. Now, you can say she is if it's still true, but we don't have any context with this story. So we don't know when it was. So was it last week, last month, last year? So how long ago was it?
5 years ago.
How long?
5 years ago.
5 years ago. Now, it might make sense to say she was because we don't know if you still know her in the
Oh,
story, right? You haven't mentioned she's still my friend now. If you say like roughly 5 years ago, I was living with my best friend, and back then she was a good cook, or my best friend Molly is amazing. She's a fantastic cook, and I actually lived with her 5 years ago, and da 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 da. So it all depends what you said in the story to which tense you're going to use. Okay.
right. Okay.
So 5 years ago, you were living together. So you were roommates in Berlin. Okay. So we're at that in. So she decided to cook. Why? Why did she cook for you?
Um, I forgot a reason. To be
It's
honest,
okay.
but
We can say
maybe
that.
we
Let's
just
go.
want
Let's
to.
go with the truth. It's fine.
Okay.
I can't remember the reason. It was some celebration, right? That's fine. Okay. So she cooked in the kitchen. So was she cooking while you were there, or did she cook beforehand?
She cooked beforehand.
So she cooked beforehand. And what time did you eat? Do you remember? Was it like in the morning, in the afternoon,
I
in the
think
evening?
it was dinner.
It was dinner. Okay, great. And what do you remember about that dinner? Did you have like a chat about life? Was it a good time? Were you enjoying yourself?
Um, we don't talk much because she didn't speak fluent English or German.
Oh,
Uh, but we still chatted a little bit. But mostly it was about the food, like the
great.
taste or how to cook this bibimbap. Yes.
Wonderful. So what we're going to do is put these details into your story to give it some context. Okay, so let me give you an example of that. Okay, so let's see what it sounds like with the extra details. Let's give it a go.
Okay.
So, roughly 5 years ago, I was living with a Korean lady in Berlin. So we were roommates and we got on like a house on fire. You know, she was absolutely amazing. And there was one particular evening that she decided to cook up a storm for me. Now, there was some kind of celebration, but it's completely slipped my mind. But I do remember the food because it tasted out of this world. So she had been slaving away in the kitchen for ages. And I came back in the evening and then we sat down and enjoyed some amazing Korean cuisine. So it was called like bibimbap, I think, if I'm not mistaken. And it was the first time I'd eaten Korean food. So when I saw it, I noticed there was like rice and also a fried egg and other ingredients. We had to mix everything together in the bowl, stir it up, and then it was ready to eat. And the first mouthful blew my mind. I thought it was the best food I had tasted in my life. Now, I'm not going to lie, the conversation didn't flow too much. I mean, she wasn't fluent in English or German, but that didn't matter because the food did the talking for us. We just kind of sat there, exchanged a few words and smiles, and generally had an absolute blast. So looking back, I kind of miss her home cooked food. And I hope that we can meet up again in the future and repeat the evening, because it was absolutely amazing. Okay,
Yeah,
so
wonderful.
what we're doing in this case, we're adding in those details for context for the story. Okay, so once you give that context, you can talk about her working hard in the kitchen. You can add in a time point if you want. You can mention the conversation. At the end of your story, you can talk about your emotions if you want to. Okay.